so nice to meet you here at Customer Loyalty Conference 2021. This year we do it in English, and because we have 40% of all the delegates coming from outside of Sweden. We are very happy about that. So we decided to do, during the tough time we have had over the last 18 months, we decided to do conferences for this fall, free of charge to attend and online. So, be able to do that is because of our partners that we have here today for the conference, as you saw in the film before, it's intro. What we see coming up very much in the customer loyalty work, and the hot focus areas for this work is customer engagement, I believe, is the most hottest thing. And I believe also that is customer engagement as an important way to build actually true and real loyalty. Other challenges that we see from Investor Relations is many new and old channels. Very difficult, of course, to deal with all this. To receive value from all data that we collect, to be able to do that, to take care of all the data, to be hyper personal, and to be very relevant for all the audience and all the customers that we have. A huge number of MarTech solutions, as we saw many times in the past. The tech stack is used very often in our events. We talk about that a lot. And also marketing automation, of course, as a tool is, as we see, very hot. We're doing a lot of educations and trainings on that topic. So also a tool and a way to come to real and true customer loyalty. My sidekick today and our producer is Daniel Johansson. I think you saw him or seen him in the event app that we now come to. So let's talk a little bit about the event app. I hope you downloaded that, and it's called Interaktiva möten. It's a Swedish word, but interactive meetings. You find it, and we have the 2 QR codes. You see that there, and you can download them from both different platforms, the 2 platforms. Okay. When you downloaded it, we will use it for several things during this event. We will both use it for sending out polls to you. We will also ask you for questions. You can send in questions to some of the speakers, the cases. You can actually, if you register in there as a user or a delegate, it's deltagare in Swedish, delegate in English, in the app, then you can also chat with other delegates or the speakers and the speakers. So take the possibility to do that and chance to actually discuss with people also afterwards and during and with the speakers. Okay. We will publish all presentations that we are allowed to publish on the content on the event site, so you will find them afterwards, and you will receive 2 mails from us. One is the evaluation, and one is the link to all the content and presentations and so on. Okay? So we will test now. If you have downloaded the event app, we will test with 2 questions, so see that it works fine. The first question is, what type of event do you prefer going forward? What type of event do you prefer when we're going forward now, the 6 to 12 months? We publish that in the app. If you don't find it in the app, you just update the app and it's under questions, and you just drag to download it with your finger in the telephone. Wow, now you see the result also. I can see me do both, it's very popular. Only online, okay. Only in person. I mean, we will actually do most of them both hybrid events as going forward, but some of them may be only online. But we will be relevant for people not only in Sweden, as you realize, we will also be relevant for Europe and Nordic and so on. So, okay. Before we start, I just wanted to mention the last presentation, and don't miss that. It's actually, the topic is how to maximize value by focusing on the right customers and setting the right KPIs. And it's with Camilla Kramner. And Camilla Kramner is a very experienced consultant as we're working together with for a long time. And she is also the head teacher of our certification education, Certified CRM and Loyalty Manager, and that we have been doing for several times. And I think we have in Sweden now about 120, 140 certified CRM and loyalty managers out there in the market and working hard with different loyalty schemes and so on. Okay, second question. Shall we take that too? Have your customers' loyalty towards your brand changed in the last 12 months? If you don't see the question in the event app, just drag down with your finger and it's updated. And then we push out the second one. Let's see. Wow. The loyalty has decreased. The loyalty is increased. I also answer. So what do you see? The loyalty has increased. I mean, I would say actually, I believe actually that it was the last one, but very positive to see that the loyalty is about the same, or the loyalty is increased. Okay, now the loyalty is about the same. During the pandemic, maybe haven't changed that much. Okay, let's continue with the program. So, time for the first speaker. First of all, welcome to Customer Loyalty Conference 2021 again. And now it's time for the first speaker. It's Mastering the Customer Journey in 2022. Meet customer experience managers at SAS Institute. Thomas Tuning, welcome.
Hey, Mats. Thank you very much. Hey, nice to be here.
And very nice to have you here in the studio.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's really nice to get out here again.
To start traveling.
Yeah,
bit,
exactly,
right?
exactly. So it's been really a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, good. And do you agree that customer engagement is a very important part of becoming or getting the real true customer loyalty?
Yes, definitely. And we'll go through that in some of my presentation slides in just a minute, because it is key to have the customer engagement to create loyalty. And based on what we experienced over the last 18 months with pandemic and so on, it's just gotten even more, interesting. And you can get so much value from that. This all new digital customers, joining, it's amazing what you can get from that.
Stage is yours. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Hey, thank you again for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here and to have this opportunity to talk to you about SAS Institute and how we look at mastering the customer journey. First of all, again, this world we're living in now is disrupted and it's changing. The last 18 months has been crazy. It's been a lot of different things, a lot of different parameters to take in place. We were locked down and people were forced into the digital channels. So how do we actually utilize this, and how do we actually do this and use this possibility to optimize the customer journey by having all these new digital users in the space? We will be talking about, let me just get some things clicking here on the slides. Sorry, just the technique. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. So we'll be talking a little bit about data. As Mats mentioned, data is key, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that before and during the COVID-19. And then we'll be talking about the EMEA poll we did, and we wanted to understand how customers have acted during COVID-19 and also what they expect from the future. And then we'll end up saying that how do we actually use this insight to master the customer journey, and how do we get started with this part? Let's start and jump into the first slide. Because again, during COVID-19, we have seen so much change. We've seen so many new digital users, and those digital users produce so much data. And that data can become so valuable. So just having a look at a digital minute in 2020, looking at how much from the different channels where we can get these insights around the different data sources. This is a huge opportunity for us actually to go out and interact with customers across different channels, but also to get the data down and use that to create even more and better customer journeys. it's really, really interesting to see how we can actually elaborate much more around this part and utilize it. But one of the things when talking about data, because data is what we say the new oil. Oil itself doesn't have any value, and that is the same with data. We need to analyze the data. We need to do something with the data to actually be able to take a decision and to move forward. So data is the new oil, data is the new economy, and it's actually going to be bigger and bigger during the next years. Let's see how that has actually combined into what customers and brands say have experienced during COVID-19. We did our first poll, say back in 2020, where we went out and asked 10,000 people around their expectations to the customer journey. What do they see? How do they create loyalty across the different parts? And we got a great survey and we get great responses. And then we had all this lockdown and we had a change, a disruption in the part. And so we wanted to go out and ask again and say, hey, how have you seen and how have you experienced that the COVID-19 has disrupted this part? So we went out again and asked a lot of people around EMEA about the customer experience and what do they expect from the future. It's a long report, and you will get access to download it after the event. In the presentation, I'll be sent out. But in this event, say small time that I have here, I'll be touching upon, say, a couple of key findings. We'll be starting with the new digital users since the pandemic started. And then we'll talk about how do customers really think about the customer experience, and then the most important factors to drive the customer experience. And in the end, customer loyalty are easily lost. We heard from Matt, we heard from the first question or the second question you answered, that you have experienced that the loyalty has been stable or increased during the pandemic. And that is something we need to value and we need to work on to keep. Let's jump into the first part, just aligning around the different industries. We'll not be digging into all the different facts in the survey, but I've taken out a couple of interesting parts. Two highlights around this. We actually seen that within grocery and food companies, the new digital users has an uptake of 20%. This is a huge opportunity to take advantage of. When we look at the banking industry and the finance industry in total, actually 55% of all users are now digital. So we need to ensure that we can utilize both the data coming in, but also when we are communicating out back to the users, that we actually have that into the mindset. So what do customers really think about the customer experience? Well, in overall, we see that the number of digital users have grown by 18% since the pandemic started. Back to this is a huge opportunity. We now have the possibilities to get so much more data from them. We have the possibility to actually act on this. They are knocking on our front door, the digital front door, and just interacting with us. We need to take advantage of that. 80% of people feel that customer experience has improved during the pandemic. Back to, as you saw, the loyalty has been stable or increasing around that, and that has actually paid off. You can see that the companies have adapted to the situation, and people actually feel that the customer experience has improved. And we need to continue that journey going forward to give them even more personal experience. Last but not least, 32% of people are more likely now to share the personal data than before the pandemic started. This is so important because they are actually giving us the digital trust. They want to share the data. And 30% of the people are more likely now to share their personal. And we need to take this into consideration when we use the data, because we want to be the company that when people are sharing data, they can trust that we use that data for something good, for personalization and for being personalized in the communication going forward. But let's look at some of the other factors in the survey. And we asked around, what is the most important priorities around creating the customer experience. And as we see, the importance of low prices continues to fall, but it is still the number one. 52% state that that is what we want to have when we are creating the loyalty in the customer experience. But what's much more important or interesting is that we actually want convenience. Consumers want to convenience, want to be easy to interact and have that part with the companies. So it's up to 48% now. Good service, customer experience is up to 42%. We want to experience that both in the online, but also combined when we actually call the call centers. We want to get help, we want to return something. So good service is also a big part of actually having the loyal customers. And the latest one, 43% of companies that act fairly and responsible. So we also need to think about that when actually doing the customer experience, doing the customer journeys, that companies or the consumers actually prefer the companies that act fairly, that are, say, responsible to the environment and so on. And by having these different points, comes back to the last one. So customer loyalty are easily lost. And if we don't care, if we don't nurture them, then we can lose it so easily. Actually, 48% of customers would ditch a brand just after 1 or 2 bad experiences. So we don't have that many chances to actually get it right. We need to get it right first time, otherwise we'll lose the customer and we'll lose the loyalty. During the pandemic, we actually saw that 52% of the customers have switched providers. That is, again, to take that in consideration, that is customers that if we treated them right, they would have been staying with us. They would be giving the loyalty back to us and stay within that in the future. And as we all know, it takes so much more marketing costs to actually acquire a new customer than to keep a customer engaged with our brand. That was what we had around the poll, the Experience 2030. You will get access to it after the event. There will be a link in the presentation where you can download the entire report. Really interesting, and I encourage you to do it. We've talked about the data. We've also talked about how customers are, expecting what are they expecting in going forward from the brands, both now but also in 2022, 2030, and it's really, really interesting to see how this can actually also be, moved into all the data, but also all the different generations that we are in. And I had a fun experience a couple of months ago, because I actually got a hold of my teenager's phone. That is not so often that happened, but she needed help to switch from an old phone to a new phone. And I found some interesting parts around that. Let's start by having a look at me. I'm a Generation X. This is a picture of my phone. And what's interesting is, if you see my preferred channel, it's the phone, it's the internet, it's the mail, and it's also SMS. So that is what I use when I communicate out, but also the most preferred channels when I'm communicated to. If we take a look at my daughter's phone, so Emily, she's part of Generation Z. Besides being having a nicer back screen with not so messy icons on, she doesn't have any of the same preferred channels as I have. So her preferred channels, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger. And that is so interesting, because going back to all the data that we were looking at, it's data all over the place. But we cannot communicate to the Generation Z in the same way as we communicate to the Generation X, because we are just using different channels, both for incoming and outgoing communication. That's important to take into consideration. All right, we've been looking at data, we've been looking at how it looks in the future, we're talking a little bit about channels, and everything can look and sound really easy. But how do we get started around that? Because loyal customers, as we talked about, want to be recognized. So how do we actually get started? And we want to take it into the consideration of how do we start walking, maybe running, and then we can go flying in the end. First of all, we've been talking about data, and data is the new oil. But data doesn't drive your organization. It is the decision. Data, as the raw oil, doesn't have any value until we get some insights from that data. And based on that insight, we can take the decisions, and that will create an impact for your organization. But how do we do it? Well, first of all, at SAS, we like to put the customers in the middle. And when we look at the customers, we kind of like want to like compare it to having a conversation. And what is the most important part of having a conversation with someone? It is to start listening. We want to listen to the customers. We want to know what the customers are doing on the digital channels. What are they clicking on? What are they typing in search field? What are they typing in forms? What are they doing in the digital channels? So we want to listen to them. You can kind of like compare it to actually being in a crowded room full of many people. Because listening can sometimes be hard. It can be, many languages, it can be, crowded, and it can be difficult to actually listen. But we want to listen, and we have the chance in the digital channels to actually listen to all the individuals around the customer groups. So when we got down and when we start listening, then we want to understand what are the customers actually looking into. We want to understand, hey, what have we learned? What do we already know about the customers? Do we actually have an identity on these customers? Have we done business with these customers before? And then we want to take all this, say, previous batch on-premise data, and we want to combine it with everything that they do online on the digital channels. And by doing that, we understand what the customers actually want. So let's say that we got this right. We listened, we understood the customer. Now it's time to decide what to do with this information. What is our next best action in this situation? Do we want to continue to listen? Do we need even more data? Do we want to start communicating with them? Do we want to offer them an advice? Do we want to offer them a compliment? Or maybe just a kind word? We've probably all been in the situation where we, try to listen to someone we love, and then we try to respond too quickly around that, and all they just wanted to hear or wanted from us was that we were listening even more. So that can be a huge mistake if we get this wrong. We need to take the right decision on what to do next, because when we have that decision, then it's time that we contribute to the next part of the conversation. We need to act. So we need to communicate back to the customer. We need to show them that we've listened, we've understood, we took the right decision, and then we're gonna present and communicating back to them in real time. We talked about the digital front door in the beginning, and when people are on your digital front door, they're there for a short period of time. So, going into having a batch job running overnight, and then coming back the next day with a new segment that you want to communicate something to, it can often be too late. We want to act in the moment. We also want to do testing. We want to do A/B testing. Test out different scenarios, different content, different offers to see what works best. And some of the parts what we see is that when doing a traditional A/B test, we run it for 2, maybe 3 weeks, we have a winner, and then we use that content to actually communicate to everybody coming into that spot from the future. That is a really, really good part because it was the winner. But what if there was a big part of the audience that actually preferred the second or the third content that we were testing? We'll be able in the SaaS solution to actually, pick those segments out, the hidden segments. And then you will be able to actually act and say, hey, we want to use that one in the overall to everybody coming in, except if we can identify this segment that was resonating more to maybe content B or content C. We want to be so precise in what we're doing. That brings us back into when we've done this, we need to get in and measure. We need to measure all the time. Measure what are we doing right? What can we actually do better? What have we learned from the past experience around the customer journey, and how do we master it even better? This is one of the places where we talk about the different data sources, the different channels, and the attribution between how do we actually see the journey from A and to Z. A lot of attributioning look at the first touch and the last touch. That can be a really, really good place to start. But it can also give you a little bit of wrong picture of what is actually driving revenue, what is actually driving conversion into the goals that you have set. Because a lot of times, first touch and last touch has been affected by, say, paid media. And if you just look at that, you might assume, hey, let's move everything into paid media or more of a marketing budget into paid media. But what if you could, from an analytic perspective, with the SaaS solution, look at the whole journey from A to Z? Then you could actually see what kind of channels have they moved through in the journey for the conversion, and you can attribute value to each channel. This means you get the whole picture, and you can also change, optimize the journey on the fly. And as the famous quote sounds, that half your money spent on marketing is wasted, you just don't know which half. We can just make it easier for you to understand what is actually working, what is actually doing better in converting into the different goals that you have set. In the last part, we need to continue planning. We need to use all the data, we need to use all the results, everything that we've done. We need to take that into consideration on how we plan the next communication with the customers. So we all the time need to update, use what we've learned to be even better when we are gonna communicate to the customers going forward. I know this can be a really, really big thing, and a lot of you might sit and think, hey, how do we actually get started with all this? The spaceship is so big, or the elephant, how do we actually, take on to this part? But I will end up saying that, you can slice the elephant. No matter where you are in the maturity ladder, how and where you are, and you're already picking up data, you're understanding, listening, or deciding, we can help you be better. We can help you optimize the return here and be better in communicating to your customers. So we can help you slice the elephant in where you are. Because we talked about, getting the key insights, and it is so important. And I would say that's a really, really good place to start. Get that key insights from what your customers are doing in the digital channels. Because by getting them, we can start to understand what are they actually looking for. And when we get this right, we listen, we understand, then it comes down to the decision. Because we want to make the right interactions in real time and act in the right channel across the different generations. We want to be personalized. Start with, light customer journeys. Start with following up. What's actually, going to do after they've clicked on this banner? Should that be an automated, email, or should we send something up into the to the app, or send a push? Or do we see a churn behavior here that we actually want to follow up with the call center, or maybe send to a clerk in the bank to follow up on this part? We want to take the right decision, but also taking it, further. So from a future state, we can also be even more advanced. So within the different modules of SaaS, we can actually accelerate the maturity in the pace that suits you right. And we can go into saying, hey, we want to be analytics in every decision we take based on this part. So we've already got the 2 or 3 first steps right. We can also help you advance in the analytics space going forward. Thank you very much for having me here talking about our view on the customer, or mastering the customer journey 2022. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and also here you will get the link to the consumer poll as we talked about here. So you will see that when we are sending out the different slides going forward. So thank you very much, and maybe let's turn into some questions.
Thank you, Thomas. And if you have questions to Thomas yourself, just go into the event app, and then you, under participant, you find Thomas, and then you can chat with him there and send questions. He will check them afterwards. Okay, yes, I have some questions, of course. Thank you very much, and interesting. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I said, what did I say? I said that we have a challenge how to get value out of all this data. And as you mentioned from your survey, that it's even more information now from all the digital channels. But could you say something about, I see many companies that struggle with actually really getting value out of it.
Yeah, you're totally right. And, I think I've been in the marketing, industry for many, many years. And, I think big data has been the buzzword, that has been living the longest, and it's still really, really valuable. Because, we have a tendency to just gather data, as much data as we want, and it's fantastic, as we talked about. But the problem with data is when I compare it with oil, raw oil doesn't have the value. So we need to take that data and getting the insights, start to analyze, what are the customers actually doing? How are they, progressing through the website? How are they, changing between, web and app? What are they actually doing? What are they writing? Are they starting to show a churn behavior? And then you can act on it. Start maybe in the digital channels and maybe push it over to the bit more expensive channels in the managed channels afterward. But it's just so important that we take all this data and get insights from that data.
But do you then also say that it's very important to get analytic profiles within your company?
Yes.
In one way or another, or?
Yes, definitely. Referring back to my slide around data doesn't drive your organization, decision does. So you need to get this insight. You need to analyze and get this analytic profile, the 360 view of your customers, to be able to take the right decision based on what the customers are doing.
Interesting, and of course that also comes then to the customer engagement and the customer experience, as you said, right?
Yeah.
Do you need to have your own kind of the customer analytic person, or is it enough to have a business analytic person that can do different?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's something that you can grow into, also depending on the size of the company. So we see many people having, this, say, more than one hat on in some companies, and then growing into, okay, now the analytics have actually, been so big, so we need to have, one person or maybe a department doing this analytics. And this analytics is not just, talking about communication, because it could also be using the data to actually start discovering some risk assessment, within bank, or some fraud possibilities. Could be in insurance or something. And then you can actually, use the data across the different divisions in your department. So you can grow with it, and you can start low, start getting that insights, and then you can grow with that into the maturity.
Okay, good. You mentioned that also people are more willing to share information about themselves and personal information. And I guess, I've seen many companies asking for information, but they don't really tell me why they want it from me. What's the value for me to give it to you? What is your comment on that?
That is exactly the reason why it's so important that we treat this digital trust with respect for the customers. Because again, if the customer sees they don't feel they get any value from all the data that they're giving us, they'll stop giving us that data. So, but if we use that data intelligent to be personalized in the communication back to them, then they say, hey, great, I would love to share my data because I'll get something back.
Good. Thank you, Anders. And Thomas, sorry. And you remember to check the app and answer questions for coming in there?
Yes, definitely do.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's time for the next speaker. And now we discussed collecting, or not collecting data, but actually getting all the information from all the channels and more behavioral information, right? Coming into all the channels, and then you can analyze that. But of course, some other information that you maybe need to collect this other type of information, and then we have an expert on that. And I would say maybe how customers really think, feel, expect is an art in itself. And the time to meet an expert in collecting customer insights to add on to the ones you have in the channels. Beyond service, staying ahead of customer expectations now and in the future. Please welcome on stage Anders Johansson from Medallia. Welcome, Anders.
Thank you, Mats.
Also nice to have you on in the studio.
It's great to be here. Yeah. It's great to be outside, even if it's not outside because it's raining today here in Stockholm, but it's great to be inside, but outside the home office.
And what is your experience from actually this service that companies doing and asking people things? Are they more willing to answer them or less willing, or?
When people ask, when companies ask for service and so on, there are a silent majority. A lot of people don't want to give feedback, so it's really tough for companies like today to be able to get all the feelings from the companies. So I think it's extremely important to use not just traditional service, but also use the data that also Thomas was talking about. Use the data because then we can find out what the silent majority also telling us.
Perfect. Stage is yours. Welcome.
That's great. So thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I think we should show something first.
The best companies in the world make experiences feel fast and frictionless, and feel human in the moments that matter most. But when customers can interact with companies where and however they want, it creates an explosion of data all coming from different sources and living in different places. Medallia helps you listen to signals across your business, make sense of massive amounts of data, and empowers your teams with the tools to create experiences that keep your customers coming back, spending more, and evangelizing your organization at any scale you need. Medallia. Growth happens with experience.
Great. My name is Anders Johansson. I work as a sales director for Medallia here in the Nordics. And Medallia is a platform where you are able to collect a lot of engagement information from your companies or customers. We are helping organizations to understand their customers, what they think about your company, what they think about your products, what they think about your employees. So it's extremely important that you, we are able to collect data and to be able to understand your customers' needs so we can deliver the best experience in the future. Today we are serving a lot of customers. We are a global company, so we're serving more than 1,000 companies around the world. It could be companies like Zurich Insurance. We are working with ABN AMRO. We're working with Airbnb and IBM. And also actually the first customer we were working with was Hilton Hotels. Here in the Nordics, we're working very close with companies like Lego, Volvo, and Maersk. Today, we will talk a little bit about how we can help companies deliver extremely good experiences. And I will also have my colleagues, Anton Herold and Florian Ulrich, joining me later in the discussion, how we are helping companies delivering experience and to really delivering business value to that. But first, I will share some numbers. 32% of customers will walk away after just one bad experience. And as we heard from Thomas earlier, up to 48% leave after 2 experiences, and it will increase up to 90% after 3 bad experiences. And I just want you to think a little bit about what you are doing when you're sitting at the restaurant and you're getting bad food or bad service. Do you really put up your hand and tell the waiter or the chef that now this food isn't good? Or are you the silent majority that just walk out, leave the restaurant and never go back? Then the other number we have is 52% of the customers say that a negative experience could have been improved if they had the opportunity to give real-time feedback and there was immediate action. Today, we always get a lot of surveys, and we are answering these kind of surveys. But we need to act quick, because if you don't act immediately, we will lose the customer. For many years, everybody says that the competition is just one click away. And I think it's really true. So taking action are extremely important. I have a friend that had been working with, or actually had an insurance within a Swedish insurance company. She had a very bad experience, and I think it's important that she wasn't happy at all with the insurance claim. So what she did was that she, after the call, she put down all the feedback, sent it in to the insurance company, and she wasn't happy at all. She mentioned her name, her email address, and also her telephone number. And now, after 4 months, nobody had been coming back to her. And she told me that if they had coming back to me, to her, and just explained a little bit, asked her and tried to have her to stay within the company, she had continued with the insurance with that company. But nobody was listening to her. So she changed insurance company, and that company lost about 25,000 Swedish kronor just for that year. So, and I'm pretty sure that she wasn't alone. The last number, 16%, that's around that customers are willing to pay up to 16% more for a great experience. Is that true? I can only look at myself and say that, yes, for sometimes it is, because I'm working a lot, and I don't have the opportunity always to go to the shop, so I shop a lot online. And for me, I realized that a smooth payment process is important for me. So I really love a company that works with payments to make it easy for me. I can get my product home and I can see that it worked. And first of all, I can see that I get the product, and then I can pay. And to be honest, sometimes I can find a product in an online shop where it's not using that payment provider. And in those cases, I rather use another shop that has. And sometimes I also pay more for that product because I want to feel secure, I want to feel safe, and I trust in that payment provider. So that's important. So how could we deliver extraordinary experiences in live time? Because it's extremely important that we talk real time, live time. So Medallia is working with 3 pillars that's extremely important. And that's, first of all, understand every journey of your customer. First of all, you have the solicited feedback. It could be structured or unstructured. It's the traditional surveys that every company is sending out. So we can collect all that data to understand what you or your customer likes. But we can also gather employee information. Your employees have a lot of information about your customers. You need to have a platform that collects all that information. Of course, we have social media, Instagram, Facebook, if that works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we can collect all the feedback that customers are putting down on social media. Of course, we have voice. We have the call centers. Today, we can make a transcript of every call, and we can see what people like and what they don't like. We can even have video feedback today. So we can get the information, but we can also see the emotions, how people react. Are they happy, sad, angry? Of course, we can gather data from messaging, WhatsApp, and all this kind of data. Then we have the operational data, CRM systems, ERP, and also HR solutions. Because information from employees are important. We don't just work with customer experience, we also work with employee experiences. So that's and that has been even more important now due to COVID, when people have been working home, and now when they're getting back to the offices again. And then, of course, we can gather information from observed behaviors. We can even gather information how the customer are using their mouse and hovering on your website. They don't need to click. We can gather information if they just use the mouse and hovering over it. When we have all this kind of information, we need to gather that and use the new smart thing with artificial intelligence, machine learning, text analytics. So many companies had a lot of information, and you can't go through all the information from all the channels that you have. You can't do that manually. So what we do, we take the AI machine learning, and we can find the alerts, find the unhappy customers. We can prioritize all that information. And then the last one, we can transform these experiences and send it out to the right people within your organization. So if you have an unhappy customer that's unhappy with the product, the quality of the product, send that to the product department. If the customer are unhappy with the financial process or payment process, send it to the financial department. So the right people will take care of the right issues. And you need to do it immediately. Don't wait. You need to take action on feedback. If you don't do that, you will lose your customer. So now I will include my colleagues, Florian Ulrich and Anton Herold, into this discussion. Welcome. Great. I will also have I need to hear what you're saying here. So, Florian, can I start with you?
Yes.
That's great. I know that you have been working for Medallia for many years now, and you have been involved in lots of projects here in the Nordics. And I know that you are working with a big financial group here in the Nordics right now. Could you explain a little bit about their vision on customer experience and how we help them and how we work together with them to set up this solution?
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a great example. I'm happy to talk about it. The company that you are talking about really set up a CX transformation plan that contains several main building blocks, which enable them a step-by-step transformation to a new way of working. So they already gathered some kind of feedback in the past. It was mainly relationship feedback from different customer segments, which was offering some limited insights. But with Medallia, they really want to move beyond those siloed survey programs and realize their CX vision in one centralized platform. Their vision is really about getting feedback from the customer in the moment when that experience takes place, and includes transactional surveys on various touch points along the whole customer journey and across different channels, like, as example, email, but also WhatsApp and of course their website, to really capture relevant feedback. Let me just say channel of choice. So it's really important that you get to your customers on their preferred channel. They use those insights ultimately to really close the loop with unhappy customers in the inner feedback loop. And for those of you who didn't know or who don't know what the inner feedback loop is, so it's really about solving issues on a one-to-one level with customers. And as well learning on a higher level in the outer feedback loop, which is really about structural improvements across the organization. And here tools like Medallia Text Analytics help them to really prioritize pain points, make processes more efficient, and sharpen the customer experience in the end. As a starting point for them, we selected a high volume touch point, the contact center, which offers excellent ways to start with transactional customer feedback and improve the performance of your service agents and deflect the call to resolution time. Based on flexible and easy integrations with Medallia, that we are offering, they are able to send out the surveys right in the moment when, as example, a call took place, to actually ask the customer about their satisfaction with the service agent and around different KPIs. And of course, one important and crucial part of this whole transformation is as well our Medallia Professional Services team that is supporting them with our best-in-class advice, with best practices from other customers to realize their Ambition CX transformation plan. If we are looking at the full picture that they're aiming on, we will have a feedback program across different countries, languages, departments, and touch points on channels like the website, WhatsApp, and email, as well as the overview of the whole customer journey to really identify experience gaps, which ultimately drives for them customer satisfaction, increasing the customer experience, and preventing customers from churning, because they will be able to close the loop with them and by activating the right employees at the right time.
Great, Florian. I have a follow-up question on that. We know that this process isn't, so to say, overnight transformation. So could you share a little bit about the building blocks, how they put this together, and how we work together with them to achieve this?
Sure. Yes. So we set up the whole plan in a way that we start really small and then build up in the end. So together with our customer, we identified the most crucial touch points together with them in their daily customer interactions. We call those moments of truth. This really helps to prioritize accordingly and start with the basics and the most important touch point, as well as setting up the right reporting for the different users with our best-in-class role-based reporting, which is really about giving the right information to the right people in the organization. Based on this initial touch point that has been selected, we learn about identifying pain points, working on structural fixes, and comparing those against the baseline to really see the value of customer experience. And afterwards, in the next building block, it is important to also connect the world of customer experience with operational data. As mentioned beforehand, the flexible integrations of Medallia enable our customer to actually combine CRM data with customer experience data, which as well helps to really identify possible pain points, as well as really getting into the point of learning when an action is necessary and brings value to the company. And then afterwards, it's really about scaling up. So scaling up the program based on the learnings that you achieved, and really scaling it up to additional touch points, to additional moments of truth. And this could be either done with our Medallia Professional Services team or in our intuitive Medallia Admin Suite, where we enable our customers to do things in self-service. And they are actually big fans of that. So I think they will do a lot of stuff on their own. If we are talking really about results in the end of this whole project, then it's about being able to improve areas that caused frustration for their customers in the past, which will result ultimately in a better customer experience, as well as achieve on an organizational level a higher share of wallet, a decreased churn rate because they will effectively close the loop with the customer, and decrease costs because inbound call volume can be decreased and processes can be more efficient.
Great. I think time is out, and I think maybe Mats have some questions for us. We'll see here.
Yeah,
Or
thank
we
you
have
very
some-
much.
Yeah, good.
Anders and colleagues. I mean, I just mentioned that I think was interesting. 16% of people are interested or prepared to pay more for a service when it's better customer expectations. And actually, I have met several people that said that they're a little bit tired of Ryanair and prepared to pay more for other airfares.
Yeah, I mean that's the fact, and I think that customers really want to have better. You don't just buy a product; you buy a emotion, a feeling, and I think they're willing to pay more for that.
What about, I mean, you mentioned different ways to actually collect information and monitor what customer thinks and feels and so on.
Yeah.
But this old customer service, as you mentioned in the beginning, that you do yearly or more often maybe than that, what happened to them?
Of course, they will continue to be there. But I think you need to have this real-time pulse surveys. So you need to feel what's happening right now. It's not just one survey a year or twice a year. It will be pulse surveys throughout the year. You have surveys after event like this, and it will be small surveys, but you need to design the service in the right way. Don't send out a survey with 35 different questions. And so the service together with finding the experience signals in your solution and really use the data, that's important, because many companies or many people, they don't answer surveys. They don't give feedback. So you need to find the information from them.
And maybe
as well.
also when they answer, maybe it's not really the truth they say there, right? It's maybe the image or they should answer.
Data is more truth.
The behavioral data and of course. But that's interesting, really, of course. And then maybe you can really see the truth more than, interesting. And I think, I mean, if you have answers or questions more to Anders, you send them in. You find him also under the delegates, participants in the event app, and you check that. Promise me.
Yes, of course.
Good.
I will check that.
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care of the. Yeah.
I will do that.
Okay. So soon it's break, and we have now 10 minutes quick break for just refreshing everything, and after break we will discuss a new era of loyalty marketing, and you will meet Anna from Médecins Sans Frontières. So she will do the first case she will actually discuss, and we will also do some polls. So if you haven't downloaded the app, do that immediately during the break, and we will see you soon again, 9:40. Welcome back. I hope you had a nice coffee break. We had that here too, and of course a lot of running around and preparing for the next session. So now we're back again in the studio. Next, if you like to understand how customer loyalty is part of the full funnel marketing, then you should definitely listen to this presentation. Keynote, a new era of loyalty marketing. Shall we say a big hand to Alex Corviato or Sofia Vinza from Recordinate and DigiView? Welcome on stage. Nice to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Hi.
And we also have Dennis Peters from Brussels, right?
Yeah, from Brussels.
Yeah, he's coming in later. So, what did you have you say about what you heard so far in the program?
A great presentation so far, and we're keen to tag on to that topic and theme.
And full funnel marketing. I'm very excited. So,
Yes.
stage is yours. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as Mats mentioned, I'm here with my colleagues Alex and Dennis, and we're going to talk about the exciting new era of loyal marketing. So the first session is going to be me and Alex deep diving into how you can utilize data and platforms to achieve more loyal customers. And the second part is going to be Dennis is going to give a hands-on tip. But start with defining customer loyalty. You could describe it as a result of constant positive emotional relationship with your brand over time and the perceived value of every interaction between you and your customers. So how do we create that value? It's about understand and interact on every interaction. So in other words, becoming masters in customer experience. So in other words, customer loyalty is an outcome of customer experience. So we need to know the key ingredients to create great customer experience as well. So if you focus on the middle sections with the 3 circles, you can see that there are 3 dimensions to create great customer experience. You need to have number 1, a strong brand, number 2, a great value proposition, and number 3, customer interactions that really makes a mark. And a common mistake is that companies think that if you only focus on a strong brand, you have loyal customers. But we would like to say that you need to have all 3 dimensions to reach the cross-section to create really great customer experience. That's when customer loyalty definitely can happen. So we know that customer loyalty is a favorable outcome from customer experience. But why should businesses focus on customer loyalty? There are huge advantages with customer loyalty. We used to say that it costs 5 times less keeping an existing customer than recruiting a new one. And the objectives is not only from an emotional standpoint, it has a direct effect on revenue. So as you can see, loyalty strengthens the brand, it increases revenue, it improves the overall customer experience in the company, it decreases costs, which then reduces churn. But on a long-term basis, which is most important in customer loyalty, it drives customer lifetime value. And some of you already work with this today and already know about this today. But a question me and Alex asks ourselves within different companies is why is it only, if this is business crucial, why is it only the loyalty team that are working on an ongoing basis to achieve these objectives? Could it be that we organize ourselves and target customers the same thing we did 10 years ago? And hopefully, Alex, will this look like this next 10 years ahead?
Well, no, Sofia. Our customers are more digital than ever before, and our tools and processes have changed. Loyalty marketing really can be managed differently. We marketers don't always need to use discounts or flash sales to convince our customers to return. We have the ability to orchestrate the customer experience in detail. We have a better understanding of the entire customer journey and can work using a full funnel perspective. But that's not all. We also have access to AI, which we can use in order to further measure and drive customer loyalty. So what are the biggest changes in our loyalty marketing toolkit? We have access to more data and customer insights. We have the ability to interact with customers in real time. And we have new digital tools that bridge the gaps between channels. We can create, test, and measure loyalty like never before. Is it? So there we go. This also enables us to become more exclusive with who we market to and how much we want to spend on them. But to improve our marketing initiatives, we need to stop focusing on only our products and offerings and instead focus on the customer. Who are they and where are they in the customer life cycle? So here's an image of a customer life cycle, a map from where we can start thinking about our loyalty marketing initiatives. There are other variants, of course, but the one thing they have in common is a sequence about attracting, acquiring, and developing customers. And Sofia, as you mentioned, all customer interactions matter. The customer journey starts as soon as a new potential customer is attracted to our brand and understands what our value proposition is. But not every customer journey is equally important, though. In order to drive loyalty, we need to understand where we can make a difference and prioritize that journey. Identifying key customer interactions and touch points where you can make a difference will lead to higher quality customers and simplify future up and cross-selling journeys that lower churn. Now that I've described how we marketers work from an inside-out point of view, but this isn't enough to create great customer experiences. Sofia, what are we missing here?
So we're missing the customer's view. The customer doesn't have our marketing models in mind. They look at it as a journey which they want to have on their own initiative. So for example, even if we want a relationship with our customers through our customer life cycle, the customers doesn't necessarily want the relationship with us, but they could definitely explore our business and product with creative relevance in every interaction. And this is all the way in upper funnel when you create awareness and attract new customers, but also in lower when you have a customer. So remember every interaction. And we can measure those interactions in buying intent. For example, we have data that leaves trails throughout whole customer journey, which we can see when we have a new customer on our website. We can see what they browse, we see what specific products it is, we can see if they added to cart. And this is really something you can utilize to create personalized marketing throughout the full customer journey. But why aren't we meeting the customers the way they want to be met? We would like to say that we organize ourselves around the tools and not the customers. For example, paid team organize themselves around paid channels and loyalty team around email. If you start with the row to the right, we can see a focus from the brand team heavily on brand and conversion, and the mission is new customers. And they get new customers, but they do cost a lot and as a one-time transactional buyers. And you look at the loyalty team on the left side, they work with email marketing, and usually we see the end result of over-communicated customers. So how can we solve the problems? We would like to say to have a united, holistic, full funnel strategy where you work together with marketing, channel strategy, data strategy, and have the right setup in the organization. So to give you an example on the full funnel in action, to the left, you see a classic marketing funnel with the top 3 steps is about heavily prospecting, and the 2 lower steps is about maintain our customers, work with cross-selling and upsell. And remember, we have interactions in the full funnel, so let's see how we can utilize it. Let's pick our lower funnel activities. So for example, leveraging a marketing automation tool to segment our high-value customers. So when I can have this advanced segmentation, I would like to push my audiences in the advertising platforms because they can actually find twins. So clone our most valued customers, for example, our most loyal customers, and find similar ones in our advertising campaigns. So now we're starting working together, the loyalty team connecting with the new acquisition team. And we can see that it's increasing the performance on the new acquisitions. We can see that we have higher CLV. We can see that we are decreasing churn. So overall, it's a back and forth loop now that we created between the loyalty team and the prospecting team. So what if we can shift from 2 to 3 and 4 teams and working together with one strategy that are utilizing, again, the interactions over full funnel perspective? But Alex, do you think this is enough to have loyal customers?
Well, not really. As you mentioned, we want to clone our most loyal customers. And a common assumption is that they're the same as our satisfied customers. So we need to understand the difference between satisfied customers and loyal customers. If you look at customer satisfaction, it's a hygiene factor. If your product doesn't meet the needs or expectations of the customer, great marketing can never completely bridge that gap. True and earned customer loyalty requires creating genuine relations, aligning with our brand, and make sure to promote activities that convert satisfied customers into loyal customers. In the new era of loyalty marketing, we are not only talking about classical reward schemas or loyalty points anymore. A good example is Customers Help Customer forums, where customers can support each other and feel a part of the brand. And remember, all interactions should be relevant in order to create genuine loyalty. Okay, Sofia, now that we can find the right customers, we need to be relevant with them. So the key to being relevant is data. With relevant data about our customer base, we can divide our customers into easier to manage segments and figure out what is a good customer experience for them. Let's look at the bottom right segment of this chart. Our data could, for example, say that we have a customer that buys from us regularly, but doesn't really connect with our brand. Over time, they will likely churn. A relevant activity could be to position our brand better towards the specific individual. What topics can we have a dialogue about? What does the data say? Maybe they are convinced by emotional benefits. Are they aware of our social responsibility work? Maybe we could highlight this next time we interact with them. Our marketing mechanisms also need to be adapted to what we know about the customer. Targeted campaigns based on customer insights and one-to-one marketing will make a lot of difference. Our aim should be to create a stable customer base that we, with the help of a constant stream of new insights, can continuously upsell to and further loyalize. Now, Dennis, please explain how Selligent can help in terms of targeted and one-to-one campaigns that really improve customer loyalty in every interaction.
Thank you, Alex, for passing on, and obviously very happy to be sharing about how a marketing automation platform like Selligent Marketing Cloud can help with this. Before we jump into the details, I think it's relevant to quickly walk you through how the platform has been built up at Selligent Marketing Cloud. So on the right side of the screen, what you will see is that there at the center is the universal profile, which is basically the data foundation layer of the platform. This is where all the data is tied in that you can use for selection, segmentation, and personalization of your campaigns. On top of that, there is what we call the Cortex layer, which is artificial intelligence-driven real-time decisioning, right? On top of that, there is consumer intelligence, and consumer intelligence is really a tool, a layer for the marketeer to play with the data, to explore and discover new segments to be used for your marketing automation and driving loyalty as well. And then last but not least, we see Sight alongside the other channels that are supported in Selligent Marketing Cloud that you can use for interacting with your consumers and your loyal members. Now, to get a bit more into the details of some key features that will bring your customer experiences to the next level, I've listed 4. So live content, smart audience, and send time optimization. These four, I will not be digging into the details here from a theoretical point of view. I'd rather share like a case study from Hunkemöller, where I will touch upon these different features individually and explain what they're all about. If you perhaps can click through to the next slide, thank you. For those of you who don't know Hunkemöller, Hunkemöller is a leading lingerie brand out of the Netherlands. They're active in approximately 25 countries. They have 900 stores, and they're no new kids on the block. So they have been around for over 10 years, many of decades, to be honest. And they have gone through quite some digitalization in the past couple of years. Nevertheless, they were one of the early adopters of the traditional loyalty marketing schemes like the plastic member cards with the earning and burning of points. And this actually brings me to the first challenge that they bumped into quite recently. So what they noticed from their loyalty members is that there was quite some members that were not spending the credits for next purchases as they should be spending them, right? And how did they dig a bit deeper into that challenge or into that problem is by looking at the universal profile, looking at the data inside Selligent Marketing Cloud, which basically unveiled to them that 46% of their loyal customers, their loyalty members, were not opted in for the weekly marketing newsletter. And that's quite a pity because they had spent quite some time like building a nice weekly marketing newsletter, including a section which was really about the loyalty members, displaying like this is the loyalty balance and this is the credits you have at your disposal. But they weren't simply able to reach them, right? Because they were not opted in for the newsletter. So they thought of alternative ways to get in touch with the loyalty members, bearing in mind that due to regulation, obviously, you're not allowed to send commercial emails if there's not an opt-in. So they figured like, we launched a marketing program, why not use service emails or notifications to let our members stay tuned on the actual loyalty balance and the credits they have for consumption. So that's what they've implemented. And immediately they saw picking up the spending of these credits once again. Now, for those of you who listened closely, I also mentioned like 46% of their loyal customers were not signed up for the email marketing newsletter, which is quite a big thing if you're saying it's your loyal customers. And this actually ties into the full funnel marketing concept as well. Like, how can we make sure that we bring these customers, these loyal members back into the dialogues that we have on a very regular basis? So what they have done on Hunkemöller's side is like they bridged the gap between traditional channels like email and their website and their app, etc., and coupled that with social advertisement. So based on that, they were able to convince their loyalty members to also sign up for the email marketing program and receiving their newsletter by showing what's the added value of receiving that communication, right? So that's the first challenge and how they took care of that. The second one, what they had discovered quite recently, was there was a drop in purchase frequency and also the customer lifetime value. And that was a pretty tricky one to discover because if you're only looking at the data from a short time frame, like the past 6 months, okay, you can see like it's going up, it's going down, it's going a bit back and forth. But when you zoom out and you take into consideration like the data, the purchase data, the profile data of the past 2-3 years, then they clearly saw like, hey, something is going on and it's declining and there's something that we should do, we should take action. And they started to dig a bit deeper into the universal profile and everything in terms of intelligence that they could get from the Selligent Marketing Cloud platform. And they had discovered like 2 potential drivers that were causing this negative trend. The first being marketing pressure. So they noticed like, hey, we're actually sending 3 to 4 campaigns every week to each individual member, which is quite a lot, right? And then second, which is pretty closely tied to the marketing pressure thing, is relevance. Well, if we're sending that many campaigns, we better be relevant to our members because otherwise they will drop out. And in terms of how they could solve the problem, it's fairly easy, right? So the two are coupled together. So what you could say is like, if we are able to increase or elevate the relevance for an individual campaign, then we would probably need fewer campaigns to deliver more meaningful messages. And that's exactly what they did. Like they spent quite some time exploring the universal profile, the 360 customer view inside Selligent Marketing Cloud. They thought of other data points which were not yet connected into the universal profile, so they connected that. And they basically coupled that information towards, and that brings me to the first feature that I wanted to highlight, smart audiences, right? Smart audience is actually an audience recommendation engine where you start from, this is the promotion, this is the piece of content, this is the offer that I want to put into the world in front of my members. Tell me, Selligent Marketing Cloud, who are the members or who is the audience I should put this in front of to get the best conversion possible. So that's for the really targeted campaigns. Apart from that, they also relevance boosted like their already existing assets, like the newsletter, the weekly email marketing newsletter, and other stuff, where they had embedded, and that brings me to the second feature, smart content, which is product recommendations based off everything that we know from the universal profile. What have you been looking at the website? What have you been clicking on in the email? What have you purchased in the past? All that information coupled together into product recommendation, smart content, displaying more relevant offers in like the weekly cadence of marketing messages, right? And then last but not least, which is quite important as well, like if you're spending this time of energy and time for making like a better individualized dialogue with your consumers, it's best that you deliver those messages at the time when your members and your customers are ready to interact with your brand. So they also implemented what we call send time optimization. And then last but not least, to summarize, like one of the features I had touched and listed in my previous slide, I haven't covered so far, which is live content. And live content is really about open time personalization at the time of opening the email. So think of like, I want to have a countdown timer in there to increase a sense of urgency for counting down to a specific event, a launch of a new series, etc. I want to make sure that accurate prices are shown. I want to play into stock levels that are available by showing and hiding products depending on price and stock availability. And they actually used live content for displaying an accurate balance in terms of loyalty points and credits to be used. Now, in terms, and this is like the big wrap up from my side, in terms of results, I would highly recommend like downloading the case from the Wednesday Relations website later on. We will make sure it's ready on the website for you to download. And I think with this, it's time to hand over to Sophia once again for wrap up this session and closing out this session. Sophia?
Thank you, Dennis. So a quick wrap up of what he said from a theoretical point of view. We need to move the majority curve from traditional loyalty scheme towards real-time personalization through, on the left side, focus on using customer insights, to the bottom axis, the ability to react on them. And to summarize today, hopefully we uncovered what we call the new era for loyalty marketing, where every interaction matters. You need to not only focus on customer satisfaction, that's not enough. We need to strive for customer loyalty via targeted and personalized dialogues, and the ability to use customer insights and act on them immediately will be vital via, of course, digital tools and a full funnel perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, I mean, you're meeting a lot of customers and companies out there and doing projects and so on, but if you really like to implement this full funnel marketing strategy, what do you see as the main challenges for the company? So what is most important to think about before maybe, or when you do it?
Yeah, could start maybe before and Alex could do the implementation, but before it's really about the slide where I show the different roads. So not working in silos, have a common team, a project group within the company that really has customer experience as a mission, and really talk together with the paid team, the own channels, utilizing data from an IT or a development departments, and really have a common goal. I think that's where you need to start. Otherwise, we're building two customer journeys, one for prospecting and one for keeping. But maybe you have a comment on the implementation.
Yeah.
But let me just follow up on that. I mean, do you also see then with this classical problem with the different departments, silos? I mean, how do you solve that, with a virtual team or agile way of working?
We would say agile way of working, where you really build it around the customer experience. So have a team set up where you use specialties and competence within different areas, and really was cross-functional, would be a really good way to tackle it.
And do you see any specific competencies or roles that you need to implement that is kind of new for companies?
Definitely marketing automation specialists, but also page specialists with different channels. Digital strategist would be important to have as a demander, and definitely on the IT side, someone that can talk to IT and have requirements from the web.
Okay, good. Yeah, implementation?
Yeah, so there's always this key use case, like a vision which brings together the different teams and makes the company strive towards the same thing. By having a good use case that actually proves, a value, it will be easier to do the organizational change that needs to happen, where different KPIs and different goals need to align. And the common use case simplifies that a lot. And you don't need to have a lot of different use cases, but you need to have something that is a star to reach.
And when we talk about system and platforms, I believe that it's very easy to see we need to do something here. We buy a platform like Selligent's platform, and then you don't really do maybe your homework in terms of processes and people and all that, and then you blame it on the system when it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a common.
Still like that?
Yeah, it's a common misconception that the system will solve the marketing automation. It's not marketing automagic, it's automation. So you need to still define a process to automate and identify all of the touch points, all of the interactions, and all of the data that goes into that specific use case. And the system can only make it easier and leverage the automation parts of it. You still need to figure out how that works. And that's kind of something a lot of companies are struggling with. And we usually help them try to identify what's a good use case, what can we build on, and so on. And the thing Sofia mentioned about having the correct team means that they can continue working with that process, so they don't stop.
So, no, when they implement, you mean they can evolve?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just different cases and objectives every time, but always the focus on the customer experience and the journey.
And coming to the journey then, customer journey, I believe also that is kind of negative here now, but I also feel that it's so easy that makes good on paper, but it's so detailed, so you'd never be able to implement it.
That's a good point. You need to start small and grow. You need to prove a value and then expand. So a lot of people over commit to the use case and make it overly complex to tick all of the boxes of features you could use without thinking about, well, would the customer experience be good if I use this or this channel or this tool or feature? So really, really think about it from a customer's perspective. I'm browsing your wares. Why are you talking about this? I'm doing this, why are you changing the subject? So they're keeping the focus of the customer journey and making sure it's on point and it's very clear and tangible, and then starting building around that, rather than making one thing really, really hard to understand and to change, because that's one of the biggest issues.
I get a feeling you need some consultants in there to support you, right? Okay, big thank you, Alex,
thank you.
Sofia, thank you, and Dennis also, thank you for this. A lot of information. Okay, so now we have a case actually coming up, and we are now going to meet one of the first certified CRM and loyalty managers that's out there in the market. And the case we will discuss, and the topic of that is how we found out who our best donors are. So welcome, Anna Enlund Martinussen. Hello,
Hello.
Anna, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
It's so nice to meet a real certified CRM and loyalty manager.
Is it?
And do you feel you get use of all what you learned there in your daily work?
Yes, I do. I actually do. It's yeah.
Okay, good. And I'm so eager to understand who's the best donor is. So welcome, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So my topic is how we found out who our best donors are. And my name is, as Matt said, Anna Enlund Martinussen, and I work as a CRM and loyalty strategist at Médecins Sans Frontières, and that translates into Doctors Without Borders here in Sweden. I will use actually the abbreviation MSF going forward because it's easier. it's not a tongue twister. I'm also very happy to be invited to this loyalty conference. It's really nice to be here in the studio and meeting all the other presenters. And as the pandemic restrictions has been lifted here in Sweden just recently, it is nice to do this as one of the first major social events, being at the loyalty conference. A few years ago, I got the question, who are your best donors and what do they like and so on. And I've also gotten that question before that, and that is something that hasn't been fully easy to answer. It's actually been pretty hard. We know that we have monthly regular donors that are very positive for us in terms of planning and having a stable income, but really knowing who our best donors are, we couldn't really fully answer that. And that led to us starting to explore that we needed to have a CRM and loyalty strategy at place. And the timing was also really great because we were tendering for a new CRM and MA system, which we now will implement next year. So the timing for the CRM loyalty strategy and finding out the answer to this is really, really good. But first, before we start, I will go through some background and numbers in MSF Sweden and globally. We have 400,000 donors in Sweden and 7 million globally. We had an income 2020 in Sweden of 67 million euros and globally 1.9 billion euros. It gives us a marketing share of 20% here in Sweden and puts us amongst the top 3 major Swedish NGOs. And also very interesting to know maybe is that 97% of the total private donation that we have comes from private donations. The last 5 years, I would say, we have seen a decline in number of donors coming in. We have a leaking CRM system or bucket, one could say. So this negative trend has also led to this awareness that we really need to focus more on CRM and loyalty, which I'm really happy about because I work with that. And this picture shows how the rain is pouring into our CRM system or the Médecins Sans Frontières with donors. But you also see a tap there, number 5, and there's where the donors are kind of leaking out constantly. So we have seen that we lose more than we win, and focusing on loyalty becomes much more important. Let's see here now. Our work in MSF is needs driven. It means that we don't raise funds just because there is a demand for it, but it's because of the patients' humanitarian needs demand it. And we provide help in 88 countries worldwide, and we have 65,000 people working for us. And we give medical assistance to people in need, affected by conflict, disasters, epidemics, and exclusion also from healthcare. In our DNA, we really feel that the patients are first, and the donations that we get from all our 7 million globally donors pay for millions of consultations, surgeries, vaccinations, and other treatments. And we feel that we together, behind and with our t-shirts, MSF t-shirts, we really feel that we save lives and alleviate suffering around the world. As you will hear later on by the loyalty guru Camilla Kramner from the Loyalty Factory, which a person that has helped me a lot in understanding what is important in the CRM and loyalty strategy. It's these 4 pillars that you need to be really good at. And as we didn't have a CRM and loyalty strategy from the beginning, I mean, we've always had plans and follow-up and KPIs, but we really never had a documented and anchored CRM and loyalty strategy within the organization in Sweden. We needed to first start on looking at who are our donors, who are the best donors, and in order to be able to know where to focus. So the first pillar is value segmentation that we decided to focus on, and the second is where we roll out strategies, our strategies in activities throughout the donor life cycle and the various donor journeys. Our mantra is that our donors have one donor life cycle, but it can have various donor journeys. The other two, advanced and predictive analytics and omni-channel communication, these two we haven't focused on in this strategy, but we will later on, and we actually have already begun a little bit looking into it, because it's hard to totally exclude them, as they are two also very important pillars to have in mind when you work with a CRM loyalty strategy. So the first pillar, value segmentation, knowing your donors' value. In order to get an answer on who our best donors are, we had to dig really deep into our own donor database and do, as what you say, a decile analysis of the whole, and this time the whole private donor database. So we excluded corporate. We looked at both emotional and behavioral loyalty, and the questions that we asked ourselves was, for example, how many really good donors do we have, and what is their yearly revenue? And to do this, we put the whole donor database in 10 percentages of brackets, and in relation to their yearly revenue. We also looked at other long-term data, such as duration, retention, donor lifetime value, and also NPS. And from that information that we got from the decile analysis, we made a collapse of the analysis into new value segments, and creating the new value segments. One of the normal marketing rules is that you say that as much as 20% of the customers stand for 80% of the revenue yearly. And we were curious also to know if that was typical for us. And this picture shows actually that we are not unlike any others. Decile 1 and Decile 2 make up of 20% of our donor database, but stand for 80% or above of the revenue yearly. So this analysis shows that we have very few donors that stand for a lot of the revenue, and of course they are important, and you need to treat them accordingly. And the thing to remind ourselves here is that, did we internally know who these people were? We did not. Until this day, actually, these donors are not tagged in our CRM system. This is something that is happening as we speak, and when we go live in our new CRM system next year in February, it will all be in place. The black line shows our donors' lifetime value, and that is the revenue per donor times the time they stay, one could say. And digging deeper into this analysis, 1% stand for 30% of the revenue, 5% stand for 50%, and so on. And this decile analysis formed the whole basis for our CRM and loyalty strategy. So very important indeed. And also another interesting question before I move on, that we asked ourselves was, how does NPS look compared to the behavioral loyalty? And our findings were that a high NPS is very much linked to a high revenue. So if you have a high value donor in our decile analysis, it is linked to a high NPS score. Our top 20% donors are extremely loyal. They have a 95% retention and stay as long as 20 years, and their NPS is 78, meaning that everything above 70 is considered world-class or excellent. And the 80-20 rule applies to MSF. We have an extremely steep donor pyramid. We have few donors that stand for a lot of the revenue. And what we need to do going forward is, of course, focus on the top segment, having them tagged in the system, and especially the top 5%, the 20,000 donors of the whole donor database. This is our donor pyramid that we created after the collapse of the decile analysis. It shows on the left side the normal pyramid looking diagram shows how many donors of the database we have in percentages and in numbers. And the upside down pyramid on the right side shows the percentages of the revenue share that they have linked to them. And in the donor pyramid, when we did the collapse, we saw that we had three major value segments, so to say. We have a top segment, which includes royals and loyals, and they make up 23% and 78% of the total revenue. So they are very profitable and have a high NPS and a very high retention rate. They stay for almost 20 years. Then we have a mid segment, which is fairly large. They are 150,000 donors, approximately 38% of the total donor database. These are also donors that are profitable, but we need to be more looking here at potential of upgrading them to a higher value segment. Because here we have a 50% churn, so half of these donors, 75,000, will just pass through the system or are passing through the system today. And we need to find the potential in whom we can be cost efficient and direct marketing activities, so we move them upwards in the pyramid. And then we also have two value segments that we call Sleepers 1 and Sleepers 2. They haven't given gifts for 1 to 2 years, and they are, so to say, inactive and not so profitable. And so here we need to find the behavioral triggers before they move into that phase and be proactive in our activities towards them. Yes. This is a more detailed view of the same donor pyramid, but it shows more the strategies and the KPIs attached to the different value segments, and also actually the values of each donor there to the left. So what did we do with all this information? One of the things that we learned that, of course, we don't want the donors to move downwards in the pyramid. That is one key thing to have in mind. And also now we know who our best donors are, and we know which our top 23% of the donor database are and what they stand for. So we want to keep them, and we want them to secure them in the donor database, and we want to actually also upgrade them or increase the time they stay. For the mid segment, which they are a very large portion of the donor database, but here, as I said before, we really need to find the potential of those that are more likely to become a loyal donor than any other. And for the two Sleepers 1 and 2, also there I said that these are donors that we need to focus on reactivation and being also very cautious about the marketing budget when we direct communications to them. As I said before, a lot of things that when we say that we do everything to all, being stuck in an everything to all approach, meaning here we can be more cautious with the marketing budget and direct communication or more communication and focus more on those that we know will move, are more likely to move upwards or stay. I would just like to show you an example, because when we did this decile analysis, it was fall 2020, last year, and we got really inspired from this ongoing project, and saw that we could, from the decile analysis, we saw a segment of donors that did not have a value or a direct value attached to it. So we saw that we might be able to work with potentials. We created a segment based on the decile analysis and based on the potential of these donors moving upwards in the pyramid, and sent a specific communication piece to them with a specific payment slip. And the results have been very, very, very good in this value segmentation, because the average response has been 62%, where we normally forecast 20% when they had been a part of what we call a bulk. And also the average donation amount is 131 euro, where we normally forecast 24 euro. And also another very good positive outcome of this is that 5% of all the respondents have upgraded today to a higher value segment. So for us, going forward, just imagining using value segmentation throughout the whole donor database, throughout all the value segments and the donor life cycles will be very effective, we believe. So pillar 2, the second focus that we had in our CRM and loyalty strategy, is when this is our new and improved donor lifecycle model, and it is being relevant by the donors by their phases in their donor lifecycle. So treating the donors differently according what kind of relation they have to MSF or what kind of value segment they have. So this is one slide, you could say, of our donor lifecycle, where the first row shows obviously all the phases, new donors coming in through the yellow phases, and then hopefully all the donors stay in the reddish phases and don't move over to the bluish phases. Or if they do, we will be more proactive and reactive when they do. And the first row shows the definitions of each and every one of the phases and the goals underneath there. And lastly, a few KPIs, simple and clear by each phase. One key KPI for us is if you have a high donor lifetime value, and I guess mainly for you guys, that is a customer lifetime value, which you get if you have a donor that stays a very long time, times the revenue, and if that is very high, you get a huge donor lifetime value in the end, hopefully. Some of the success factors along the way has been that our ambition has always been being data-driven and relevant, having an outside-in approach from a donor perspective. And this is something I really feel that we have been able to accomplish with this CRM and loyalty strategy, and doing the decile analysis and then the collapse into new value segments and having a clear donor life cycle model. And also this knowing your numbers. I've seen that knowing your numbers and showing management team the cost of donor churning or the income raise, if we focus a little bit more on this value segment over another, comes a lot of engagement and support and leading the way from the management team. During the way, also another success factor is that we involved many other people in the organization, people from donor service, which is our customer service, content producers, data specialists, digital specialists, and so on. To get input, of course, but also to give a sense of inclusion and anchoring with the organization. as I feel, is that CRM and loyalty is always something that happen behind the doors, or it's something that is just it's something that happens, but it comes with great benefits if more people support it, understand the effects of maintaining a good loyalty within the organization, knowing the numbers. So today the feeling is really good. We have a clear definition of who our best donors are. We know who they are. We have clear strategies and KPIs. So we are good to go to the next system in February. Next steps. As I'm standing here, the same work is being done for our corporate donors also. And after that, we will harmonize the corporate and the private into one CRM and loyalty strategy. I think that it's really important to have an overall view of all the donors, either they're corporate or private. And all the new segment names, value segment names, and definitions and donor lifecycle phases are now implemented in the new CRM system. And we will have a full rollout of marketing automation activities next year. And also, as I said before, external data and omni-channel are other two pillars that are really important, and we are starting to look in on them also, of course. So, thank you. I would like to say that always reach out if you have any questions. I think I'm in the app and also on LinkedIn. Remember that loyalty is not something that automatically happens. It is not a feeling. It has an important outcome. And I don't know how it is in your organization, but if you have a top 20%, you need to know who they are so you don't lose your 80% of the income.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mats.
Wow, impressive work you're doing there. And also impressed about the 20 years of loyalty from the best top 20%.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing, yeah. I know that retailers sometimes say that it's easier to get money or having customers that are large customers to buy more than try to find and get the lower, smaller ones to buy more. Is that the same for donors, that it's easier to get money from the ones that donate a lot of money? The large 20%.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's like the mid segment you saw there. We have 150,000 donors there. They are almost 40% of the whole donor database. So it's obviously more easy to get donors that give less or so on. Yeah.
If you have questions for Anna, you can send it under dialogue in the event app also. No, Anna, don't leave yet. Don't leave. I have more questions. Actually, we have some comments in the app.
Yeah.
Impressed by the 20 years loyalty for your top donors. And what is the most important to focus on for a project like yours? You had your tips there and your success factors. I think that were pretty good. But
what I saw during this process is that really it's so effectful and comes with such much force if you know your numbers. If you can show management team the cost of a donor churning or doing this decel analysis and showing the numbers really comes with a lot of leading the way and support along the way.
Okay. Another question coming in is if it's possible to mention what marketing automation tool have you chosen?
Yes, I can do that. We chose Salesforce or MPSP with the Marketing Cloud module.
Okay.
Attached to it.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And send more questions into Anna. Okay, now it's time soon for break, but we have a question or a poll in the app. So could we send out the poll? The question, let me check that. The question is, what is your main challenge in the loyalty work? So let's see, we take some seconds for answering it. And during that, I will tell you that after break, we will discuss about anytime, anywhere customer service. And we will meet also the customer engagement manager at Nordnet. So after break, we will do that. Let's see what the result is to get value from all data that we collected. So Thomas from SAS Institute will love this, of course. To be hyper-personal and relevant. Too many MarTech solutions. Yeah? Not that may be difficult, but other 15, let's see what that is. We're coming back to that. Okay, to get value from all data that we collected is a main challenge. I know that. I mean, I meet so many companies that's saying that. So, okay, let's have a break. We see you again at 10:45. 10:45, 10 minutes break. So see you soon again. Welcome back to the last session of Customer Loyalty Conference 2021. And I'm so impressed about the Médecins Sans Frontières work, and also to really find out who is the 20% most valuable donors, or for us, maybe others, valuable customers. I need many of us to do this work actually. And if you like to get more meat on the bones on these 4 pillars, then you stay tuned until the end and listen to Camilla Kramner, that is the father or maybe mother of these 4 pillars. So listen to our favorite consultant and head teacher. But now we are going to discuss another topic, that is how to deliver cross-channel delight to modern shoppers. Welcome to Angela Joseph and Janne Sivula from Freshworks. Hello, Angela and Janne.
Hi, Mats. Hello, how are you?
Sorry, I don't have my mic on, but...
Hello, Matt.
Hello, now I hear you. Sorry, miss of... But everything is fine with you?
Everything's going great. Really happy to be here today.
Where are you based?
Based in Berlin, but from Finland.
Okay, good. And Angela?
I'm based in Amsterdam, originally from India.
Okay, good. Same time that we have anyway. So stage is yours. Welcome on stage.
Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Mats. And hi to everyone listening in. Really happy to be here today. My name's Janne Sivula, and I'm an account executive at Freshworks, focusing mainly on the Finnish and Estonian markets. So what I'd like to do today is first give you a quick snapshot into what Freshworks is all about. And then I'd like to pick a few key findings from our recent ebook, the Retail Buyer's Guide to Anytime, Anywhere Customer Service. And then last but not least, Angela Joseph, my lovely colleague, will walk us through a recent case where we implemented an omni-channel strategy for a Swedish e-commerce company. So our main focus in everything we do at Freshworks is around enabling businesses to delight their customers and employees. And we've taken a fresh approach, pardon the pun, to software as a service. And we believe SaaS solutions need to be affordable, easy to implement, as well as made with the end user in mind. What this means in practice is whether you're in sales, customer service, marketing, IT, or HR, the software in use needs to be supporting you in your role and in turn allow you the opportunity to delight your customers. Now onto the ebook. So the ebook is the Retail Buyer's Guide to Anytime, Anywhere Customer Service. And nowadays, consumer expectations are changing extremely fast. And this is especially true in the retail space. And there's a couple numbers that really stuck out to me that I'd like to go over with you. And that's that 80% of consumers expect more immediate service. 90% of consumers expect brands to be more empathetic in the way they serve their customers. And 80% of prospective buyers are more likely to make a purchasing decision based on a more personalized experience. So an omni-channel strategy is something that can definitely help with this. But why is it that so many brands haven't managed to do that quite successfully? And I think the first reason for that is the proliferation of all of these new channels combined with the shifting of commerce into these channels, such as buying directly through Instagram, mean that it can be hard for a company to keep up. And at the same time, companies don't always understand the nuances between these different channels. And consumers today expect to be serviced at the place where they make the transaction. So that brings us to what I want to talk about next, the rule of 5. And rules of 5, basically what we mean by this is that by picking these 5 channels, you can reach around 95% of your customers. But just as important as having the channels in use is really understanding the differences between the expectations that consumers have in each of these channels. And I'll go ahead and I'll give a quick example to illustrate some of these differences. So first of all, with self-service, 39% of consumers today would rather solve their own problems than get in touch with a brand or company to help them solve it, which means that by having a working self-service option, you're not only giving the customer what they want, but you're also allowing your agents to focus on the problems that really need their assistance. Then we come to email, probably very familiar to all of us, but as a channel, the consumers using email do not expect as instantaneous of an answer as you might in other channels. Email is an important channel when you might have a complex issue or maybe a problem that needs a few back and forths before it can be solved. When it comes to social support, according to Gartner, if you're not answering and replying to comments on your social media channels, this can lead to up to a 15% increase in your churn rate. Messaging as a channel is very familiar to us in our everyday lives as consumers, but companies need to also understand that messaging as a channel needs to be informal, it needs to be fast and effective also. And then we come to, last but not least, the phone. The phone is very rarely the first option a consumer will choose when they want to get in touch with a brand. But when it's very important to have that option, because when there is a situation where the consumer wants to convey a sense of urgency or complexity of the problem, phone is a very good channel to do so. So next, I'd like to, I'm very happy to have my colleague Angela Joseph here with me today. So welcome, Angela. Could you start off by maybe telling us a bit more about what it is you do at Freshworks?
Thank you, Jana. Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's an absolute honor to be speaking in this forum. A big shout out to Wednesday Relations for hosting such a fabulous event. It's been a year since I joined Freshworks, and it's been an amazing journey so far. I'm an engagement manager, and I have this incredible opportunity to represent my customer advisory and adoption services team. So what do we do as a team? As a team, we are responsible to make sure our customers get the highest time to value by accelerating the deployment of our Freshworks products and services. We work with our customers to map key deliverables for implementation, act as product champions, partner with them on their challenges, and help them navigate deployments of our products in the most predictable, scalable, and effective manner.
Fantastic. I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into that, Angela. Could you maybe tell me of a recent situation where you've had the opportunity to delight our customers?
Definitely, and that's a great question. Today, I'm going to be talking about how we implemented Freshworks Omnichannel product suite for one of our Swedish e-commerce B2C customer who is a leader in manufacturing kids products. So let me set the stage by giving you a brief overview of our customer profile. They operate out of all the 5 countries in the Nordics. They have their services department stationed in Gothenburg, and they also have agents working remotely out of different parts of Sweden. They have a 2-level support channel. The first line, supports the customers via phone, email, chat, and Facebook, whereas the second line is more of an escalation path and supports their internal employees. They were facing a lot of challenges with their legacy customer support tool, few of them being they had to use multiple tools and devices in order to solve one single ticket. Toggling between these multiple tools made their day-to-day operations very, very challenging. Their ticket management and reporting was not effective as well. And the agents found it very difficult to map their entire customer journey. And most importantly, the tool was so very complex that it took a lot of time to train their agents and make them experts in it.
Interesting. Could you tell us a bit more about how you went ahead with solving these problems?
Sure, but first I'd like to spend a few more minutes to deep dive into some of these challenges, right? And how we went about solving it. Consumers are already engaging with companies via different channels, just like how you explained, Yana, in a couple of your slides back, right? Let's now look into the stats, right? This might sound drastic, but 64% of the consumers expect their companies to respond to them real time. So recently I had bought like a pair of AirPods from Amazon, and the order status showed that it was delivered, but neither was it in my mailbox or neither was it handed out to me directly. This really infuriated me. So I wrote a long email to Amazon, and my immediate reaction was that I want them to respond to me right away and give me a proper explanation, right? But of course, it took a couple of days for them to reach out to me. But this is any customer's normal expectation. The last thing they want to do is reach out to customer service, right? Because that means they're calling in angry. But need of the hour is to have a fully integrated platform that consolidates customer interaction. We at Freshworks have built a platform that we call Freshdesk Omnichannel that does just that. We help the Swedish B2C customer to move from a multi-channel model onto an omni-channel ecosystem. For that, we implemented all the products as part of our omni-channel suite, which comprises of our ticket management, caller, chat, and a self-service portal. Next, I would like to spend a couple of minutes to talk about our engagement model. This is usually not everybody's favorite slide, but it kind of properly describes what we do as part of an implementation, right? We followed a very iterative model. We delivered the product in multiple phases. Now, double clicking into this slide and giving you a quick overview on what we do during each of these phases, right? During the initiation phase, we set the customer's project goals, objectives, and do a detailed requirements gathering. Followed by a detailed configuration phase, we did a data migration from their legacy system of all their existing tickets onto our ticketing system, and also developed an integration with their order management system. Followed by a detailed UAT as well as train the trainer session. Once they were ready to go live, we supported them with their go live activities and also provided them with hypercare support. Once they were live, we did a smooth transition to customer support as well as CSM managers. Well, now you might ask, aren't you like a SaaS company? And you have like out of the box products, why can't you just plug and play? Well, the reason why we chose this model for them, even though they had a streamlined support process in place, was because they were looking at this engagement as an opportunity to instill change. They wanted to start fresh. They wanted to revise and reconfigure and change the entire structure, optimize and automate their workflows as much as possible. And most importantly, they wanted to know their unknowns. The team comprised of an engagement manager, solution architect, and onboarding specialist. So we gathered them across Freshworks team, and we made sure we got the subject matter expertise to do the successful implementation. This was a customer that needed a lot of reassurance, wanted to see immediate results, and wanted to take full ownership of the schedule. For an engagement like this, it's very important to call spade a spade very early in the engagement, lock down scope in the first couple of weeks of the engagement, and make sure the relevant folks are held accountable for the successful delivery. Our delivery had some immediate impacts on their day-to-day activities. They were able to use the tool more efficiently and more easily. And within few months of go live, we did see a notable decrease in the average handling time of the tickets as well as average resolution time. And also this increased their CSAT ratings, the feedback that they received from their customers, right? They took this as an opportunity to increase their Net Promoter Score and also instill and boost customer sentiments. Finally, their agents were able to focus on tending to their customers rather than learning how to use the tool. We as a team are not just mere vendors for our customers. We strive to be their strategic partners. Rather than giving them a menu card and asking them to choose what they want, we partner with them to understand their challenges, help them achieve their goals. This is how you gain trust and loyalty. For me, loyalty is not something that can be given, right? It needs to be earned. We have to earn that loyalty from our customers by solving their problems, functioning as their allies, and going above and beyond to get things right for them. This might sound easy, but it's often the most difficult thing to do and the difficult thing to maintain. We, as part of the EU onboarding and customer success team, strive for that mission every single day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. And back to you in the studio, Mats.
So thank you very much. And interesting story there. Some questions to you. Maybe Janne, or I mean, you decide who to answer. But I know that a lot of companies, I realize that they hide the phone numbers, so it's difficult to really call them. Is that a good idea, or what do you say about that?
Naturally, it would depend on the situation and maybe understanding what's behind that. But a lot of the times when I talk to companies that maybe do want to hide their phone numbers and don't want those phone contacts, it's because they understand that usually when someone's contacting you by phone, they have an urgent issue and they want your help with that and they want to convey that to you, which brings up the question that, is it a good idea then to hide that phone number, or would it be better to actually end up with a happier customer by taking that call and making sure you kind of resolve the issue at hand?
Yeah, and of course, if you do the good job on all the other channels, maybe you'd have less phone calls, of course. Okay, so my experience also is that for emails, as you mentioned, it's a longer acceptance for a longer response time. But I also felt that over the years, it's been shorter and shorter in terms of expectations, or?
I think that could be accurate. I guess it depends in what sense, but I think that makes sense also because of the development in, for instance, the software that's in use and routing options and things like this, making sure we get that message to the right person right from the get-go goes a long way in making these exchanges faster. And email, while it might be a bit slower, and it still is, it also allows for a bit more flexibility in terms of really conveying what the issue is. And I think that's maybe part of the reason why it's also more acceptable for that to be a longer resolution time.
Okay. And can you say something about what the expectations is at the moment? Is like same day, or is it okay to do it the day after, or?
I think it's very, very hard to generalize like that. I think it's more important to maybe look at it on a case by case basis, understand what kind of contacts these are going to be coming in and what's really needed in order to resolve that issue before you can really put a general guideline across industries on it.
I think what I appreciate is that you get something back, that we take care of we're working on your question now or your issue, or instead of totally silence, you don't know, have they received my question, or?
I think that's an extremely valid point, in the sense that whether that the time to resolution is longer in that certain channel, giving that kind of feedback that, hey, we are working on this and we will get back to you, that gives a feeling of confidence also to the customer that they're actually being helped in this matter and they kind of know where they're at in the process.
Yeah. So if you want to start doing things here, and maybe you change work, start a project to implement a new platform like yours, is it possible to say something about what channel should we start to focus on? What is the most important channel? Is that something you can say something about?
I think once again that would really depend on the industry and the company even. but I would say maybe the more important question would be to kind of understand what are the channels that your customers would like to use, and where do they expect you to be giving them the high quality service.
Yeah. Maybe I can add a point there, right? Definitely, it depends on the industry you're from, right? Because if you're an e-commerce industry, you definitely want to have your chat and caller open, because customers want to, because it's B2C and they want to reach out to you right away. But if it's for other like ITSM and stuff like that, emails are sufficient. And so we try to understand from the customer what their current channels are and implement that first, and then expose them to all our other product offerings and see how they would like to expand and evolve over time.
Good. Interesting. Yeah. And the ebook you mentioned, can we find that? Can we send out a link to it, or?
Definitely. We'll make sure to get that link out to everyone. I definitely recommend giving it a look.
Yeah, we put it on our content page on the event site, and then we send out the mails. Perfect. Thank you very much, Angela and Janne. See you soon again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I love to introduce next speaker. Maybe you realize that I love this customer engagement. That is kind of the new thing I believe is very important, not always that easy. But the introduction to the next speaker's slot is true loyalty comes from engaged customers. If you get some experience from agile work, don't miss this. So from CRM to customer engagement powered by Agile, it's time for the marketing owner customer engagement at Nordnet, Rickard Myrlin. Welcome. They say I should wait. Hello, Rickard.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
That's so good that we have this digital way. I mean, you were supposed to be here, but now your family is not that well any longer at the moment, so you are at home. But it's perfect we do this anyway.
Yeah, it's really great that you can do this remote. I was just braiding a ponytail on a My Little Pony 5 minutes ago with my daughter, so it's good to have the flexibility.
The Swedish vabba is when you are at home with sick kids. There's a lot of other abbreviations for you, not Swedes, to we can talk about, but we do that later. So, Rickard, the stage is yours. Very interesting to hear about your agile work to become more customer engaged.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I hope that you see my screens as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks. So, hi everyone. I'm here to talk about how we at Nordnet think about customer engagement, just like Mats said, and how an agile way of working has helped us and support us in working more in that space. And I'm not going to talk so much about the methodology of agile. I'm sure you already heard plenty of that before. So instead, I'm going to share with you our own experience through a miserably failed attempt, I must say, to launch an agile way of working to our current state with perfect harmony in this way of working. But let me first introduce myself a little bit. I'm 38 years old. I live outside of Stockholm, as you know, then with my 4-year-old and my wife. And as you can see here, I enjoy cooking. Maybe you see that on the picture. And I live under the illusion that I'm still a triathlete. My formal title is CRM manager, and that is as much as my athletic career, maybe a relic of the past in some sense. But I'm here on the account of being marketing owner in the customer engagement team. So maybe you think that is really a smart ass now, who cares about titles? Isn't that just about semantics? But I'll get back to that in a moment, why I think it's an important point in separating what we used to call CRM from what we now call customer engagement, and how Agile can support that transformation. But let me just start off with saying a few words about Nordnet as well to get you on track with our case. So, if you didn't know already, Nordnet is the leading digital platform for savings and investments in the Nordics. And we exist to democratize savings and investments. And we do that by enabling private savers with solutions previously only available for institutional investors. And we do that in a world-class customer experience. Our promise is that we are building the best platform for savings and investment. And the present tense here is important, since we always strive to become better and develop our platform. It seems like my clicker doesn't really work like it should, but that's not that might be fine. The pictures might not be that important. Anyway, our promise to our customers is that we are building the best platform. And that takes me on to the vision for my team. And I guess that you're actually seeing that screen now as well. So that's great. This remote thing and being able to take care of children at home is good, but the technique also has to flow. So sorry for that. Anyway, for our team, the customer engagement team, the vision is really to create communication that in itself is a USP for Nordnet. It's a part of the customer experience and a reason on its own for being an active customer. Where the previous CRM department was often tasked with pushing offers developed by sales or new features developed by product, we as customer engagement see our communication as part of the overall experience of being a customer at Nordnet. And we're no longer limited to launch campaigns, but we rather focus on releasing new communicational products. That is communication that it's on its own becoming a reason for customers to stay loyal to Nordnet. And I'm really happy to be able to show you a short demo of such a communicational product that we're super proud of. So please, Matilda, play the video.
By news. Every hour, 800 news articles relating to the stock market are published on Nordnet's platforms. For an investor, it's not only impossible to keep up to speed, but also difficult to filter and find the valuable news that affect your investments. To address this problem, Nordnet developed Triggered News, a communication service that helps our customers take their savings to the next level without having to scan the news feeds. Triggered News is a real-time news service that delivers relevant and curated content based on the customer's specific engagements. We find the relevant news by processing the specific customer trading and behavior history with the metadata for specific news. When they match, we send the news to them through email. As a final step, the emails are enriched with the latest market developments and key figures for the stock. With this, the three most important factors to make an investment decision are delivered to our customers: news, stock development, and key figures. During the year, we have distributed more than 5,000 unique news items, covering 870 different companies on 7 different markets, automatically. And the results? A 7.4% uplift in transactions, which means millions in generated revenue, a 58% higher open rate, and a content that's considered relevant by 95% of our customers. To summarize, an activity that combines customer value with business value, and most importantly, helps our customers take their savings to the next level. Triggered News. Take your savings to the next level.
Okay, so we first launched this communication about 2 years ago with help from our good friends at Remotion. And from that point on, it has been an ongoing journey of continuous iterations that has led up to this great experience and actually 4 nominations for the Guldnyckeln Award. But the point here wasn't to show off, but to talk about what we have taken from the Agile framework in order to enable the development of such great experiences. And when we first started up to work Agile, there were a couple of things that we wanted to achieve. For us, it has been very important to have a clear and transparent way to prioritize, since we always have so much to do and so many great ideas. But without clear priorities, we tend to do too many things at the same time, and which hurt the quality. But to accommodate the high-paced organization, we needed to achieve that structure while maintaining or even increasing our speed and responsiveness. Also, we wanted to get more out of our specialist competencies by letting them collaborate in cross-functional teams with control over their own deliveries. And finally, we wanted to encourage an iterative approach where we create a constant feedback loop, both relating to our results, but also just as important to the way we work together. And I know I said I wouldn't bore you with too much methodology, but I'll quickly walk you through a few of the core components of the setup that we have before I go on to the learnings that we gained since our first attempt to launch an agile way of working. And the backlog that forces us to prioritize. We only have the total sum of hours that each resource have, so we need to prioritize. And my job as a marketing owner, which is maybe a term that we sort of invented, it's normally called a product owner, but since we produce marketing activities, call it marketing owner. Anyways, my job is to clear the field of unprioritized requests and make sure that we have what we need to deliver a task before we go to work. That way, the team members always knows what to focus on. And the set heartbeat provides a consistent framework for collaborating where all team members are aligned and work together towards a common goal. It creates a solid structure to ensure that the prioritized task gets done as planned. For example, if I need something from a colleague to be able to proceed, we share that every morning on a stand-up and we're ready to get rid of potential blockers. But it also provides a very high level of responsiveness to change. The task force, if you will, is always ready with the framework. So, for example, we don't need to book a meeting when something urgent comes up. We know that we meet each day to touch base, restructure, and reprioritize whenever it's needed. And the constant feedback loop from retrospectives and reviews, they ensure that we continuously improve our collaboration and deliveries to become even more effective and get better results. And the Scrum board, it helps us to visualize our progress and forces us to break up tasks and define concrete definitions of done. For example, we might not be able to deliver a full campaign in the 2 weeks' time of a sprint, but we might be able to define a campaign in one sprint by setting goals, determining the target group, creating a brief, and so on, while you would produce the campaign in the second sprint, launch it in the third, and follow it up in the fourth. So that takes me on to some of the learnings that we got from trying to launch an agile way of working in one way and ending up where we were today. And the first part is that when we first started up working agile, it's really important to find what your assignment is and define that around what you can control. But when we first started up, we were very eager to include all parts of our value stream, which made our teams very big, including lots of resources that were not dedicated only to our assignment. And therefore, we ended up with a semi-engaged group of people with little time to contribute to our process. Now we have built our team around what we can deliver on our own, and we send out requests to other parts of the organization once we need it. That way, we can really focus on our performance and make the most out of our competencies. And I see that my connection to the slideshow seems to be lost. If that's something anybody can support with, otherwise my slides aren't that very interesting. They're just only text, so I'll just keep talking and hope that you at least follow a bit. I was going into the next learning that we got from our first try, and in order to accommodate this vast team with competencies across different organizational units that we had with very limited time dedicated to our objective, we started to compromise with the structure of the methodology. So for example, instead of having short, relevant, efficient stand-ups every day like we have now, we had a couple of uninspired calls a week with most team members browsing through their inboxes to spend their time in a way that felt meaningful to them. So in other words, we didn't at all become faster and definitely not more responsive. I see now that that you see a slide, which is the next one. So the one I'm talking about now, it's called "Don't Compromise with a Method."
And Rickard, you should be able to click. Otherwise, I click if you tell me that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now it seems to be working now. I lost it for a while, but it's back on again. But doesn't matter too much because there's not so much information in the slides. Anyway, the point here is really, if you want to gain the benefits from working agile, you have to give it an honest shot and don't compromise with the basics, at least not from the start of it. And onwards again then to the next, I will call it learning from my point of view, is in our first launch, we believed that we needed to fit our sprint lengths to our processes. And like we were into before with campaigns and things like that, taking time to build up, we set up 4-week sprints. And the problem with that, as I see it, is that it gets increasingly harder to know in detail what you need to do further away in time when you plan. And therefore, the last few weeks of the 4-week sprints were not very well planned. Often we needed to change, and the lack of predictability hurt both the team morale as well as the credibility towards external stakeholders. So by planning in shorter sprints, we are forced to break down our deliveries in smaller, more concrete tasks, and that makes the planning much more precise. We can satisfy our stakeholders, and not to underestimate, we get a very healthy sense of accomplishment once we deliver on our plans without too much deviation. So another very valuable perk of shorter sprints is that we get the chance to deliver feedback to each other as a team in the retrospect more often. And feedback isn't always the easiest thing, but as with most other things, the more you practice it, the better you become at it. And the better feedback we can give each other, the better we are going to perform as a team. And finally, I hope that I've been able to give you at least some inspiration. But if I would give you some final overall advice, I would really say that make sure to get whatever help you can if you're about to launch an agile way of working. For example, an agile coach or a police or an internal ambassador or whatever you want to call it, I would say is highly recommended. That you have somebody initiated and dedicated to follow your teams on the startup and make sure that you stick to the method and don't fall into old habits, and hopefully don't make the same mistakes as we did. Or maybe it's good to do them because that has helped us in a way to become very, very effective in the work we have today. I could really go on about this for ages. I hope you figured I'm a huge fan of working agile, but I figured it would make more sense to actually have some time for questions and discussions. So thank you very much for listening, and yeah, let's see if there's anything to talk about.
Thank you, Rickard. Very interesting, and I'm also impressed about the agile work that you're doing. First of all, I mean, as I mentioned several times, I'm so focused on the customer engagement. But do you? I mean, it's also, I guess, it's easy maybe to say yeah, but of course, an investment bank like yours, it's easy to say, of course, people are engaged. But what do you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's partly true. Of course, it's important to manage your economy and your money, but it's also something that a lot of people are not very well into. So we have maybe two parts of the customer base, and of course those who are really interested in savings and investments, those are easier to engage, and we also communicate more with them. But there are definitely ways to reach out to the broader target group. And speaking then of engagement, I think it's a key to not only believe that you can change them overnight into becoming super engaged, but you can take small steps and don't have too big hopes on conversion from one day to another.
And I think actually all you banks have been pretty good at actually, especially maybe you at Nordnet, as you also mentioned, developing a very good platform that also, I guess, will drive loyalty. And as a customer, you don't really want to move to another tool because you don't know the tool and you know your tool and so on. Do you see that engagement also drives really loyalty, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And the platform, if you will, to us, that's all we are. So that's super important, being a digital player as well, as compared to the incumbent banks or the big banks that serve branches as well. So we really have to be on top of the game in terms of our platform. And we work really hard every day to make it better, and the customer notice that, and they like it. But it could also be, I mean, the platform is one thing, but the communication around it, like we talked about, it's not just the experience in the store, it's also how we communicate. That's a part of the overall platform experience.
Okay, if we come into Agile a little bit and discuss that, there's two things about it. I believe that I hear many people saying, yeah, we took the best part of Agile and we do that within the marketing department, for example, but we don't do all of it. But are you working 100% Agile? I think you said something about that.
Yeah, it's a super good point. And maybe my point was not to compromise and not like take in the bits and pieces, but in some way everybody do, of course. I'm not sure if there's a 100% definition of 100% agile, but my point is, I mean, it has been tried within very many organizations for quite many years, and I meet other people as well, and they have that kind of discussion. And can we have stand-ups like a couple of days a week? It takes too much time to have every day, and so on. And we're so special. We do things in a different way here and there, but it is a methodology that has been tested a lot and works very well. And I think if you start up with compromising, you're not giving it an honest chance, and then the likelihood of gaining the benefits are definitely lower. I think try as full out you can and evaluate, and if it doesn't work, then you can think differently and involve the way you work with it.
Yeah, of course, it takes some time to change and get used to the new way of working, I guess also. But we have a question here, another question. Hi, what measurements do you use to get the insights about how many find your content relevant? How many find your content?
Yeah, good question. Maybe you're referring to from the movie. We had some example that 95% consider the content relevant. In that particular case, we actually had a module in that email send out. So there was just a very plain question: did you find this news article relevant? Yes or no, and they could click straight in the email.
Okay, so then you see that, yeah. And another question is a little bit what we talked about, that what type of work or departments or is relevant to do agile? Is it all?
That may be a question that could vary more between organizations, and that you might need to find out what works for you. And I mean, initially it comes from software development.
Mm-hmm.
And we are a marketing team, but going back a little bit to my point, that developing customer engagement activities is, I mean, somewhere in the middle of developing services and products as compared to developing marketing campaigns. I think it could be easier if you're looking at your deliveries in that sense, and it could be a little bit more challenging if you are delivering creative work, but or in internal agency that works creatively, they also work agile and they make it work really well. But you just have to find sort of your way to fit it into your way and be able to move on from old habits, I think, to gain the benefits.
Good. Rickard, thank you very much for your all the information we got and for your presentation.
Thank
you.
See
you soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now is the last but not least presentation. And if you remember what Anna from Médecins Sans Frontières told us about these 4 pillars, and so now it's time to go into more depth about these 4 pillars actually. And now you're going to meet the head teacher of our certified CRM and loyalty manager education that we have and run for several years, and also our favorite consultant within this CRM area, Camilla Kramner. Welcome on stage. Hello, Camilla.
Hello, Mats.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I think it's perfect fit that actually you end this conference with setting the 4 pillars and understanding what to focus on in terms of customers, and actually getting some theory behind what Anna said as you also working with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Stage
much.
is yours.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here, and it's wonderful that we have so many people with us online today. And I'm not surprised actually, because loyalty is a very hot topic. But loyalty is also a very complicated topic. And even though the majority of companies today say that loyalty is of strategic importance, there are very many companies that struggle with both defining loyalty and knowing who your high-value customers are, just like we heard this morning from Anna, and not the least also to measure the more and more intensive CRM, CX, and loyalty work. So let's see, I need to dive into this actually. So, yes, so you see this very colorful slide here. And what I want to emphasize with this one is when we talk about loyalty, we need to dive into the 2 dimensions. The number 1, the emotional loyalty. So we all aim for having these happy customers in the tree over there to the right. But we also want to understand the behavioral loyalty. So there are 2 dimensions of loyalty. And the behavioral loyalty, it's how long do the customers stay, what do they buy, and so on. Preferably adding all the way up to customer lifetime value. And on top of that, we have the complicated issue that as a best practice, as a guideline, very often 20% of your customers stand for 80% of the value. So I'm going to try to put this together and be talking about how to maximize value by focusing on the right customers and setting the right KPIs. You get my contact details here. If you have any questions, just send me a mail. And I have a long experience working with customer relationships from large companies with big databases, doing a lot of churn analytics and so on, and loyalty initiatives. And Mats already introduced the fact that I do the education together with Wednesday Relations, and also I've been supporting Anna now with the framework that she presented. So you will be recognizing some things here, but also getting new angles. I think when you start, really, all of us are already working with our customer work in some way or form, but I think it's very important that you have a strategy, a clear strategy, and that you form your clear why. Why am I working with the customer relationship work, and what are my goals? Like this example, for instance, going all the way to customer value management, a more advanced form of CRM, you could say, where you really use very data-centric and customer-centric working methods to recognize things like individual customer lifetime value and so on. And you see there to the right in the picture, I think it's great that you pronounce that the purpose with this work, it is to maximize CLV, customer lifetime value, and that you actually manage to measure that. And obviously CVM is very much about both understanding the customer, what they like, what they don't like, so we really can deliver on their terms, more on a one-to-one basis. But it's also how do we create value of our database, so to say. How do we optimize the value? And as you can see here in the picture, we have like three main components. If we're really good at loyalty work and knowing who are our high value customers, we will also be much better at attracting the right customers with the same profile. So good loyalty work is actually an important base for acquisition also. And once we have the customer in our database, so to say, you see the value pyramid here, we need to develop the right relationships with the right customers, meaning there will be different value propositions, different strategies for different segments. And not the least, we need to be extremely good at the retention process. So who are about to leave us and how do we kind of stop the outflow? So if you're really good at CVM, you have a great control over the inflow, the outflow, how you kind of move the customers in the pyramid. And you work with optimizing the base, delivering excellent value, and your ultimate goal is customer lifetime value. And here we come to the four pillars. I take them up all at once, actually. A little more depth on this. So if you're really good and aiming at working with value management, aiming to target customer lifetime value, these are the four things you really need to be good at and to deliver in order to maximize value. The first thing, it is value segmentation and customer strategy. Assessing your customer portfolio, how does it look, like Anna was showing, for instance, and actually operationalize the 80-20 rule, recognizing your high-value customers, because those stand for 80% again, very often. The second piece is customer lifecycle and customer journeys. You need to really define clearly and detail and plan each phase in the customer lifecycle. And one customer can obviously only have one customer lifecycle, but you can have many journeys. So it's measuring this lifecycle. So it also adds up to customer lifetime value. And the third, so it's like growing value throughout the life cycle. The third pillar, it is omni-channel. It is that you need to deliver value in the channels. It's of course in the channels that we interact. That's where we meet the customers. So you need to recognize the customers in all the channels and deliver preferably one-to-one messages, consistent and seamless across the channels. This is where we have the marketing automation piece, multi-channel, omni-channel marketing automation, etc. The fourth piece, advanced and predictive analytics, is also very important if you are really becoming more and more data-centric. I'm sure some of you are using this. But with advanced and predictive analytics, you can predict who is going to be a high-value customer, who is going to respond to what. So you can grow customers with advanced analytics, and you can also predict those that are leaving you. So churn analytics is very common. And I would say with this picture, what happens often is that you run out and you buy systems, a little bit the last two pillars, like you have a lot of systems, but many times you haven't done the pillar 1 and the 2. And that's my message. You need to do those very carefully, and then everything can, so to say, be programmed into your systems. Also a few words. Now we're going to dive more into the value piece. I will also be talking a lot about the value, also the segmentation. But before setting a question for you, I would like to talk a little bit about CLV as the ultimate KPI and what are the benefits. It obviously gives you an overview of the whole relationship because you know the duration, the length of the relationship, the total value. So rather than measuring channel performance or campaigns or this and that, you have a total view over your relationship. And it gives you important insight to segmentation, differentiation, and who are your high value and loyal customers. And it is, for sure, according to most experts out there, the most important customer metric for strategic planning and long-term profitability. And what Forrester says, for instance, about CLV is it has been around for a long time, or for some time, but too few measure it. And it is more and more companies are asking to measure it because you need to measure the increased loyalty work that's being done, customer experience, implementations, CRM, marketing automation, data platforms, and so on. So I think this is something that you really need to start looking into if you haven't done so. Here you also have a slide on the CLV definition. In its simplest form, you can say it is the total worth to a business of a customer over the whole period of the relationship. So as you understand, you obviously need to understand how many years is the customer a customer. And for that, we actually first need to measure retention rate, kind of repurchasing degree. And because from that, we can develop the KPI duration, and then we can start looking into total CLV. And as you see to the right there in the picture, I want to point to something, and that is how small changes in retention rate can have a very impact on how long a customer is a customer. So if we go from 90% duration, if you remember, Anna was talking about 95% in the top segment, but if we have 90%, we have 10 years of duration. If we go to 95%, we all of a sudden have 20 years of duration. So it's very, very important to measure this. And calculate the value of increasing your retention and thereby your CLV. So now I actually have a question for you, and that is if you measure customer lifetime value and also customer retention rate. I'm sure many measure retention rate, but maybe not going all the way to CLV. So what I mean here is having the actual CLV per, so to say, per segment or per customer. So, no, yes. What do we say here, Mats? Do you measure? Is it 83% that measure? I'm very surprised. 66. That's high. And 33 don't measure it. Okay, it's changing here. It's about 47% saying yes and 47% saying no. Don't know, 5%. Okay, changing a little bit more. So for about half. That is interesting. That's about half, according to different surveys, about 50% measure retention rate, for sure. So let's dig into the value segment. Now I think I went too far. I'm going back one. So a little bit the background. This concept you recognize from Anna's pyramid, but I think it's the bottom line here that it is very important to know your high value customers and to operationalize the 80-20 rule in treating these customers differently. So knowing how this pyramid looks and then define a clear strategy by segment, setting KPIs and effects by segment, and definitely investing in loyalty marketing and customer experience and so on with the top segment if you want to protect your high value customers. And I can see there in the right in the picture that not only see how the revenue share that a certain percentage stand for, but also go all the way to putting together NPS and retention and CLV. And here, just a recap, this is what we saw with Médecins Sans Frontières, the fact that how it was developed into 3 major value segments. And I think it's important, what I want to add is that it's important to do it by segment, because it's one thing to measure total value or total retention rate, total CLV, but to really break it down into the segments and from that develop the strategy and calculate on what improvements per segment, so to say, will make. But I think with this, I've done, of course, quite a few of these type of segmentations and CLV analysis. And this is a pretty deep donor pyramid that Anna had, which she also was talking about, having about 5% of the donors standing for about almost 50% of the value. And the fact that it was clear that the emotional loyalty is so linked to the behavioral loyalty, and that is not always the case. That's, of course, very good when it is like this. But so I think it's really important to dive into these numbers and put the numbers together and get attention for this. Here's another example, an older retail example. And also what I want to point out here, kind of to the right there in the picture, to really have these loyalty KPIs by the segment. So what is the CLV per customer in a certain value segment? What is the retention rate in a certain value segment? And the turning into the duration and also the NPS, which we do not have in this picture. And then down there you see the total value of the customer portfolio, so to say. And this we have also done for MSF. Calculate. That is my message, and show the numbers. One very effective thing to illustrate, I think, is with the leaky bucket. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. I mean, we acquire customers into our bucket, and then how big are the holes? What is the leakage? And I'm just taking one example here, a random example. If we say that we have a company with a total revenue of 500 million kronor, and then obviously 1% churn costs 5 million kronor. And if we have a churn of 30%, that will cost 150 million kronor. And a customer life cycle will be 3.3 years. So then you can work with these numbers when you make your loyalty business case to see if we increase retention, decrease churn in this top segment, for instance, what does that mean in savings, so to say. And then, of course, the other big driver of the loyalty business case is increased revenue per customer. I don't have an example of that here, but so use numbers. And here, then we come to the execution, the second pillar, customer life cycle and customer journeys. And when you have done your business case in the value segmentation, you have all the numbers, you know how much you want, for instance, to drive value per customer. You also know how much you want to increase retention or reduce churn. You can turn these numbers into the first bucket there. What are we aiming for in terms of revenue per customer? And that in turn goes into duration. So how long is this customer going to stay? And then you can add it up to CLV. So everything kind of belongs together. The value segmentation being taken out here in the life cycle. And I think it's great to really define each phase. Anna was also showing how it can be defined with clear goals, definitions, KPIs. You have it down to the left there in the picture. And obviously, so what campaigns are we doing in these different phases? And many times when I meet companies, I see that, and this is what most companies tell me from all the educations and so on and consulting, that you miss several of these phases, so to say. Some are not good, for instance, at the second half there, retaining, knowing when are customers leaving or why are they leaving and so on. So to sum this up, I would like to conclude and say that to manage customers as assets, you must be able to value them as assets. And it's really important to invest, of course, in CRM, CVM, CX, and really analyze and act on your customer data. And it's also very important to define loyalty and to set your loyalty KPIs. And here you have some of those key KPIs, retention rate, CLV, NPS, on both total level, but also by value segment. And don't forget to really operationalize this 80-20 rule and to always protect your high-value customers and learn from your high-value customers. The customer life cycle and the customer journeys drive value through these distinct phases, clearly defined, and for sure loyalty concepts, loyalty strategies, and retention programs will have big effects. And once you have done those two first pillars, you obviously go into the two next ones, which I haven't talked so much about, but it is that you tag your customers in your marketing automation and analytics system. They are tagged both according to value and according to where are they in the life cycle. So those two dimensions are the most critical to differentiate on and to personalize on. So with that, I wonder if we have any questions.
Hello, yes,
Hello.
I want this one.
You want this one?
Thank you very much, Camilla. And Is it? I mean, I get the feeling a little bit that CLV and what you're talking about is more relevant for subscribing kind of business models than for retailers, for example. Is that so, or?
That's a good question, Mats, because I often say that subscribing models are better at measuring it, because if you have to leave as a customer, companies kind of tend to keep track of how many are leaving, while in the retail, customers just drop inactive. But nevertheless, it is very important also for retailers and non-subscriber models.
Mhm.
But you have to kind of define then when you consider a customer being churned, so to say.
Good.
Mm.
Okay, and what is very common for our members to do is actually what we see is like Anna did. They attend one of our courses, for example, the one we have together with Camilla, the CRM and loyalty certification education, or a marketing automation course or something. And then after that, they maybe would like to really start working with it at home, and they ask us for, could we actually use the consultant or the teacher as a consultant at home? Maybe also they like to do a company-specific training for a lot of people, their colleagues in the office. So that is natural. Is there something to say about that? I mean, next we check with the next when the next training course are planned for.
It starts in March.
Yes, could we show that on picture? There it is. We have both one in English and one in Swedish. And the one in Swedish, then you can choose if you like to attend in the office or online. And the English is only online. So you see, next starts spring 2022. So thank you very much, Camilla.
Thank you, Mats.
See you soon again.
See you.
Okay, so now to the bitter end. And I just would like to thank all of you being part of this conference as attendees, and I hope that we brought you a lot of new ideas, some maybe tricks, some concrete tools to use at home, the 4 pillars. If you really like to go into depth into them, then you go there and become a certified CRM and loyalty manager. We have it both in Swedish and English, as I said. And I would also like to thank very much all the speakers that we have here today. Very happy to have them, most of them here in the studio and some online. And also I'd like to thank all our partners for this event, as they also done this, make this happen actually. So thank you very much. See you soon again. And the next conference that you should miss is this one. No, next one. There it is. The 23rd of November, we have the Marketing Automation Day. So see you soon again. Bye-bye.